Thank you all so much. And thank you, County Attorney and your team. I know John Fudman's here with us for the work that you guys continue to do on this. And let me just mention why we're here. We passed Uplift Harris, and we announced it almost a year ago. Almost a year ago is June of last year. And we did this because guaranteed income is one of the oldest and most successful anti-poverty programs out there. When my team first told me Milton Friedman and Richard Nixon and MLK all were proponents of this program, I almost didn't believe them. When they told me that it has been shown to work not just in the US but in other countries, I knew this was something we had to do. Roughly 1 in 6 Harris County residents live in poverty, which is a higher rate than other large counties in the state and in the nation. As people already know, it's possible in this county, right here in Harris County, to work full-time, to work multiple jobs, and to still not be able to pay for basic necessities. That's what this program seeks to address. We had more than 82,500 people apply for this program. The need is enormous. In other jurisdictions, recent data shows that programs like this one help increase employment rates, help strengthen families, help improve health outcomes, and improve mental health outcomes. More than 80 cities and counties around the nation, as well as other nations around the world, have been successful. And I know they like to call it some sort of a socialist experiment from left-leaning jurisdictions, but similar programs were passed in Arizona and other states that certainly can't be called liberal. If Ken Paxton succeeds in getting an injunction, as his lawsuit calls for, he and Texas far-right Republicans will be responsible for taking $500 a month away from the 1,928 low-income Harris County families who are expecting their first payment on April 24th and have been expecting that payment since March 18th. Today is April 10th. These families are counting on this support for basic necessities, to pay for groceries, to pay for utility bills. And Ken Paxton is playing political games with their lives. And I ask that Mr. Paxton come down and meet with some of these families and tell them straight to their face and see what it was that they were going to use those dollars for. And tell them that, never mind, it's not arriving anymore. We reject the premise that there's a legal conversation to be had here in the first place. But given that they're pretending like there's a legal conversation, let's look at the lawsuit. It's political speech, okay? It's not a legal document. They've branded it. Cheekily, the Harris handout. I guess they could have gone for Hidalgo handout because they're making it all about me. And if you turn the pages, you know, it's like a basic lawsuit, except that it's really short. It's 16 pages. So folks here who are familiar at all with lawsuits, it's 16 pages. This is jurisdiction and venue, background. Let me point you to the pages where he makes his argument. Double-spaced footnotes. Here's one page. Here is the second page. And then after that, it ends. The argument is explained in 2 pages, double-spaced, with footnotes, taking up a good chunk of the bottom of the page. And so, most of it's rhetoric, okay? I read it. It's a branding campaign. There's no argument. It says our program violates the Constitution because it violates the Constitution. It says programs must have a public purpose, and this program doesn't have a public purpose. Obviously, the public purpose is to reduce poverty. Somebody off the street could tell you that. It says the program arbitrarily selects recipients. If you go to the website, you could see in 1 minute that you weren't allowed to apply unless you met very specific qualifications on income and very specific qualifications on geographic location. Trump himself instituted and touted a program in 2020 that sent checks to individuals beneath a certain income level. He put his signature on the checks, I remember, because I received one. Republicans, far-right Republicans, only care about this program now because we're doing it right here in Harris County. Now, not in the lawsuit, but in Paxton's sensationalized press release, he says that certain classifications of non-citizens would be eligible for the program. It's trying to make it sound like this is some ploy to, under the radar, give this support to undocumented immigrants. This money can only go to U.S. citizens or people who have protected legal status. These are lawful permanent residents, people with green cards, people who've been granted asylum, political refugees, people who've been granted protection under immigration law, and so forth. I was in college when I had a green card myself. I didn't become a full U.S. citizen until 2013. And I can tell you, having a green card means being here legally. I don't know what political calculation they made or what happened that caused them to file this lawsuit this week, but it's really cruel, the timing of this, and I truly hope that the Texas Supreme Court sees that. We announced this program, as I said, in June. Senator Bettencourt sent his letter to Ken Paxton challenging the program in January. Recipients were selected and were notified in mid-March. It's April 10th. The timeline is not new. It's been public for months, since last year. This is unscrupulous of Bettencourt, of Paxton, of these far-right Republicans that are behind this attempt to play with people's lives. If Trump Republicans had a problem with this program, they needed to raise it before the families were selected and before the families were counting on these dollars. Honestly, that's what we were expecting. After Bettencourt sent that letter, we figured something like this would come. When it didn't, and the date to tell the recipients they'd been awarded the support came and went, we figured that must be it. Harris County used to be a rubber stamp for whatever came out of the Texas legislature and whatever came out of these folks' ideas. When I took office, when we took office, we changed that, and they don't like that. We're doing better as a community. We've done incredible work, but they don't like that we do things in a way different from what they would do. Newsflash, it's democracy, guys. We were elected by the people of Harris County. And we are making these decisions with the confidence of the people of Harris County. This is not just cruel, is not just laughable, 2 pages double-spaced. It's dangerous for democracy. They do it all the time. They sued over election laws. They sued over our use of COVID masks. I'd forgotten this, the Chronicle reminded me. The Texas comptroller accused us of defunding the police, and then he rescinded the accusation. They enjoy it. The problem is the 5 million people who live in Harris County are their constituents also. I can handle being called falsely a socialist all day long, okay? But the families whose plans and livelihoods are being caught up in this are not deserving of this kind of behavior by their elected leaders. Texas leaders do this with impunity because they know the people they're hurting are not their billionaire donors, but everyday people with limited political power. These hardworking families of Harris County don't have access to the millionaires and billionaires Ken Paxton used to fund his criminal legal defense. They are just trying to get by. They're calling it the Harris handout. I think we ought to call out then the Paxton payments. How he used federal funds, how he used public funds to keep out of federal court. How he used Texans' dollars to object to 2020 election results in other states. Your dollars went to a lawsuit that was never going to work to object to election results as far as Pennsylvania. Or we could call it the Bettencourt benefit. How he took public federal dollars in the form of PPP loans. if we're trying to play with words. This isn't just going to affect Harris County families. We've seen time and time again that what Texas does, other states follow, that they end up lowering the bar of what far-right Republicans in other states have to do, exacerbating the extremist lengths that far-right Republicans have to go to in order to make it through their primary. And so I've already heard from jurisdictions with successful programs that are fearful of what might come next with their guaranteed income programs because of what Texas is doing. So where do we go from here? We're fighting this. I have full trust in our county attorney and his office to fight this. As he said, more likely than not, the Texas Supreme Court elected judges will rule in favor of Paxton because they're scared to lose their primary, which counts on far-right Republican voters. But I hope, as my colleagues expressed, I hope that the court can see the very easy, basic reasons why this is not a serious lawsuit. And these points are truly laughable. So I think it's possible that they will stand up for the most basic and obvious interpretation of the law. Let me repeat in Spanish briefly.